Hello, Suyin.
Hi, it's nice
Hi.
to have you here.
Hi. Um, can you tell us a little bit about how you come to meet the Dharma and how do you decide to follow
Right.
Rinpoche?
Yeah. Well, this would have been in the early 2000s, and I was taken by Sogyal Rinpoche's book, The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, and
Mm.
went to Montreal to a big conference that he had, and was taken right away. And then Sogyal Rinpoche came here to Vancouver, I think maybe a year or so later, and had Lady Lila Rich and Zongzar Kinsey Rinpoche speak as well.
Yeah.
And it was in town and also up at Sea to Sky Retreat Center.
No, I think it's in Whistler.
Oh, Whistler, that's right. That's right. I knew it was up there
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And a huge crowd of people. And I was really taken by Kinsey Rinpoche, you know, his youth and his enthusiasm and his energy and I did he come to teach here on his own somewhere along the way? Because I remember
I don't remember.
asking him if I could. Well, Doug and I asked him if we could be his students.
Mm. At
Doug
that
is
time
my
already.
husband. Hmm?
At that setting already.
Yeah, it was already, you know, getting to me. I was
Mm.
grabbing onto it right away, and then our teacher Rinpoche said no problem, you know, and he was. I think Siddhartha's intent had started by then. I think Amelia had put it together,
Mm.
and I met her, and I think she organized in her own house. Were you here then when?
No. But tell us a little bit about why you decide to follow Rinpoche and what was the
That
interaction was
grabbed
at
me,
that
yeah.
time?
It's hard to nail down exactly what it was,
Yeah.
but it not only, it made sense in some way.
Mm.
And it wasn't just mind, it
Mm.
was also heart.
Mm. Mm.
And I often talk to Rinpoche about this, and you know, I began reading more books on Buddhism, which expanded more my understanding, and meeting others who were practicing Buddhism also helped.
Mm.
There was just such a ease or a connection, you know, with others,
Mm.
and the meetings on a regular basis at Amelia's house really made a difference.
Mm. And
You
that was
know,
in early 90, wasn't it?
I can't remember. You know that it
Yeah.
might have been in the 2000s already. I
Oh,
can't
I see.
remember. The
Yeah.
years are all, you know, coming together. But I remember at the meetings it was Luke and
Mm.
Rika and
Anne Marie?
of course Anne Marie, and Doug joined, which was wonderful. Um, I don't know whether Micheline was here yet. No,
No, I don't think so.
but there was quite a number of us, and meeting on a regular basis at Amelia's really began to give a sense of group and community that was very comfortable.
Mm.
Well, I'm just trying to remember what came first. Um, Rinpoche began coming to Vancouver on a more regular basis every year, every 2 years, I think it was, to
Right.
teach. And Anne Marie and I volunteered to help plan the events
Mm.
out at UBC. And we worked so well together. It was just so easy. Everything just fell into place. You know, we would have, you know, up to 300 people, and people from California and Seattle, and I don't know whether from Calgary, but Washington, and started coming. So we began having a huge group of people. And the feedback from these events were so good, you know, and we were surprised at how, I guess the Dharma was really helping us, because everything just fell into place. Everything ran so smoothly. We couldn't believe how smoothly it went. And then, of course, the teachings were taped.
Yep.
First in tape.
That's right.
Before the discs. And Andrew was living at Amelia's then, and I would go over every week, and we would began ordering the tapes.
Right. Yeah.
So we began to dub the tapes, and you know, all the letters we send off the tapes. So we began working together really, really well, and you know, that helped with upcoming events as well. And then when tapes went to video, the discs, yeah, the discs. Then we began sending out discs. I mean, that tells the longevity of our working together, you know, tapes, discs, and I don't know, we don't need those anymore. I don't know. What do people use now? Just the computer, sending out whatever. And then, what we worked closely with Rinpoche. He felt, I guess, that we were managing, you know, the meetings and the events really well. And I don't know where along the way I heard more about Bhutan.
Yeah.
I don't recall that personally that much involvement with SSRC
Well, you did.
directly.
I don't think you remember, because I was a retreat manager.
Yeah, I
at
remember
that.
that.
And then the first year after that, Rinpoche actually asked me to go to India. He wanted me to take a break. So send me to India and do a retreat. And you were actually helping in Vancouver, doing all the coordination of emails and everything. Because remember at that time, the retreat center was closed in the winter.
Right.
But we still need to keep up the correspondence.
Of course.
You were helping doing all that.
I was secretary or something during that time.
No, you were really helpful at that time. And then also remember SSRC, Rob and Julie and you and Suyin. I mean, you and Doug always come up and help us as volunteers.
Yeah.
Remember that? I mean, they were.
Yeah, we went up often.
All
yeah.
the time.
Keep the place clean and to sort out and plan and stuff like that. Yeah, well, I can't, do you remember what year Rinpoche was there for 4 months? What winter was it?
I don't remember. But you want to talk about...
Because that was a 3-month retreat. Yes. That he had people there, and I was up there that whole time.
Yeah. What about Rinpoche doing the blessing, the wedding blessing for you guys?
That was very special. Moment. I know. It was New Year's Eve, I think, 99 into 2000, or it was 2000 into 2001. And Doug and I were up there, and Rinpoche was there. And just out of the blue, we asked him, Rinpoche, would you marry us? You know, with this Buddhist ceremony or whatever. And he said, sure. And then we, you know, I don't know how many of us, maybe 20 or 30 were up there then, and it was New Year's Eve, so we were celebrating, and he sat down and he said to us, or said to all of us, he says, that's good. You've been together for 20 years, and you know you want to be together, so I'll marry you after 20 years. So he married us, and it was such a lark. It was just, it made it so special for Doug and me. And no, SSRC is a very special place for all those special events and memories. And yeah, Rinpoche was really our guide in so many ways. And I guess it was shortly after that, maybe I read a book on Bhutan or something triggered Bhutan, and we asked him, we wanted to go to teach English to the monks at his monastery. And we kept asking him, and, you know, not the right time, he said, and stuff. And finally, after 4 years, maybe he thought we were old enough or smart enough or strong enough or whatever. So he agreed. And I think we went in, I think '04 was the first year. And that might have been the year that he was also teaching there. So Bhutan is like a kind of a sausage-shaped country. And one lands in the west, because that's where the main airport is Paro. And you have to take a car ride all the way across to the Bartsam, where his monastery was. And I think he was there at that time. So we were part of one of his many cars that followed his car across the country. It was fantastic. You know, it was, you know, he talked to us and we would have meals together. And I think the roads, there wasn't even a paved road then.
Yes, yeah.
So it took us about 3 days, 2 nights and 3 days, to travel, what, 150 miles maybe? 200 miles? Maybe even less, I can't remember. But when we finally arrived, the monks at Bartsam Monastery were delighted to see Rinpoche, of course. And there would have been over 100 monks from ages probably 7, 8, or 9 till about age 20. And Rinpoche introduced us, you know, where we were from, Canada, etc., etc. And we were going to teach them a little bit of conversational English. And we chose those 2 words because these monks' siblings at home learn English in school. English is the language of instruction in Bhutan. So they all learn English. And these monks, you know, in all the monasteries don't learn English. So when they go home to be with family, you know, if the family talks in English, they don't understand. So we decided in our teaching that we wouldn't teach it the way they teach it in America and Canada and everything. You know, you learn nouns and verbs and how to make sentences and, you know, past and present participles and all that kind of stuff, because they didn't need that kind of stuff. They just needed to learn vocabulary and how to put a sentence together. So how we decided, we saw them as a whole group first,
Yes.
just to kind of meet and stuff like that. And then, because there was such an age difference, in the afternoon we broke them into smaller groups. And there would be the older groups, and then there would be, I think there was a real young group and then a middle group. And Doug and I then took turns. And so how we did it as a group is we would go to a different place every day. So today we would teach about, we were going to go into your house.
That's nice.
And we would learn the different things in a house. Table, chair,
Yeah,
kitchen,
yeah.
you know, bedroom, bed, bathroom, so that they would learn the words of places that were familiar. And then another day we would go to school. And what was in a school? Desk, paper, ruler, pencil, all those kinds of things. And since we were there for 3 months, and we taught usually 5-6 days a week, we went to many different places.
Wow.
You know, a farm, a field, and then after a while, when we began to run out, we went to the village. You know, a store.
Yes.
We went to restaurants in the store.
Yeah.
We went to I can't even remember. I went to so many places. And then after a while, we began to travel. You know, what do you travel in? A car, a bus, airplane.
Yeah.
And then after a while, we flew across the ocean and went to Canada and went to China and Australia. And it was so much fun, and they just loved it.
Yeah.
You know, they just loved learning these words and getting their world opened up
Yeah.
to them.
So you kind of create your own kind of a.
Oh, yeah, we made it up every day. Every day.
Yeah.
And we became so fond of each student, and they of us,
Yes.
that they was so sweet. They called me Ama, like mom,
Of course. Yes.
and they called Doug Appa, like dad.
Yeah.
And because my background is also nursing, you know, if they were hurt or, you know, scraped or they didn't feel well, they'd also come to me to get ideas to, you know, help themselves. And Doug took the older fellows out into the woods and the grounds around them, and taught them a lot about not only gardening, but how to take care of the land around them, which was really good because there
Something
was nobody.
practical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All the practical things.
Yeah.
All the practical things. And we went back to Bartsam, I think 3 times in total.
Wow.
The 3rd time we didn't teach, it was just to visit them,
I see.
because, you know, they'd all grown. It was about 6 or 7 years later, so they'd all grown.
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing there is we not only learned about the school, but the village that was close by. Because we would go down there in the village to buy treats,
Yeah.
you know, and to get ideas of what to teach.
Right.
And sometimes a few of the monks would take us down there to, you know, they lived in town to meet their parents and things like that. So it was wonderful to be part of the village as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's.
And I'd still keep in touch. You know, this is, 20 years later, and many of the monks left the monastery. They wanted to do further education. So they left the monastery, and there are 3 or 4 of the monks actually here in Vancouver. So we've kept in touch with
Still
each
kept in
other.
touch.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It was a wonderful experience.
Yes. Yes.
And to be there with Rinpoche that one time was such a great introduction.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the highlight of my Buddhist life so
I
far.
think you two were more the pioneer for teaching English in Bapsam. I mean, later on, there are other people continue on teaching, you know, but still, you know, you two are were the pioneer. at
Yeah.
that
Oh,
time,
that's
just
kind of
starting
nice.
it.
Yeah.
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 It's still, it would be wonderful if that was possible in, you know, Rinpoche has several monasteries in Bhutan. And it would be wonderful for, you know, other Western students to have that experience there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it meant a lot to us. It widened Buddhist life for us too, you know, how Buddhism was incorporated into everyday life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know whether, it introduced bringing more Buddhism into my present life, but probably has to be more mindful
Yes.
and to not rush around,
Yeah.
because life is very slow there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can see the change in myself as I've got older,
Yeah.
to not grab at things and to just calm down, slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about Kensei Foundation? You were also involved in Kensei Foundation too.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Kenjoli started it up, and she wanted some help in some way. I can't remember all the details, but I assisted by being a beneficiary coordinator and help establish a method of how people could apply for funds to study or to go overseas and practice. There was a scholarship and there was a grant. There were two different things. Grants were for projects, I think, within Kensei Foundation. And we helped establish a application form. And Kenjoli organized a group of who would go through all these grants and, the terms that would help them decide whether this person's application was viable and things like that. It was a lot of online work and paperwork.
Yes. And communication.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And KF has expanded about 100, 200 times now. It's just huge.
Yes, yeah. But when you what was your role at that time?
Mainly just beneficiary coordinator. That was the term that was used.
Yes. Yeah. And how long were you doing that? Were you for some years?
Well, I can't remember exactly when KF became a government, whatever, I forget the term now. But, you have to apply and be a charitable organization. And I was doing it up to about maybe just 2 or 3 years ago because it became so big.
Yes, yes, yes.
The special times when, we would all sit together at SSRC and at mealtime, and we would talk about everyday things.
Yeah,
Sometimes we talk about Dharma, and we share experiences from our past, his boyhood and his travels and how we grew up, being Chinese as well, where I grew up, he wanted to know, and my kids, he wanted to know about my children, and he knew Brian.
Maybe talk about how he really took care of Brian. Listen to Brian.
Yeah, he wanted always to know Brian, my son.
And also remember, Brian attended him in the teaching, in the green room.
Yeah.
So talk about that, meaning how Rinpoche tried to bring your family into the Dharma. Yeah. I think that's a nice one to talk about.
Well, Brian was also very interested in the Dharma, and he wasn't sure how to get involved, and he came to some of the Sangha meetings, and I introduced Rinpoche to him, of course, and I guess it was during the events that Anne-Marie and I organized.
The green room.
The green room Brian was
was
part of
supporting.
the green room, so Rinpoche and Brian kind of got to know each other better. And Brian had asthma almost all his life, so he wasn't always so well. And Rinpoche was always concerned and wanted to know how he was.
Yeah, and he also gave him practice to do.
Yes. Yeah.
我记得都给他。
Yeah. Yeah. Rinpoche gave Brian practices to do, and how well Brian did, I'm not all that sure. I don't. But he did. Yeah. And during the 3-month retreat, Brian was also up at Sea to Sky for helping in the kitchen.
Right.
In the
So
kitchen.
maybe talk about that. That would be the final end of this. Okay.
The
I think
final.
that's enough.
Yeah. Well, Rinpoche, when I told Rinpoche about Doug's death, and then which was in 22, and then Brian's death in 24, I needed to talk to him. So finally he was able to phone me. And he said to me, I don't know whether, not in these kinds of words, but as I understood it, that yes, it's hard for you being the one left behind like this, especially when both their deaths were so sudden, so unexpected. But he said, it's better in a way because you are the stronger one. Doug was having cognitive difficulties. And if I died first, there would be no one to really care for Doug. Yeah. And he also said that about Brian. If I went first, Brian would be lost in someone being able to take care of him. Yeah. And that, his words, Rinpoche's words, really touched my heart. And I have to come to that, think of that all the time now when I, feel down in the dumps and feel really, really sad. And Rinpoche is in touch with me. He wants to always know how I'm doing. And I really feel watched over, in his circle and in his blessings. And I'm just so grateful. And I'm just so grateful that Rinpoche is the primary contact person now for me in the Dharma. I even though he's not here in person, his presence, his spirit is all around. And often I will talk to him in my mind or out loud when I'm by myself. When I'm needing to sort something out or make a decision or something. And the answer is there. It's just a kind of reassuring presence. And it's Rinpoche and the Dharma. That's how I feel my life is now. There's a lot of scary times ahead, because of my age and, major decisions down the road. But there's a deep trust there that things will work out, even if things are tough, and they may even be sad again, and scary. I just feel a solid base that's there for me. And I know that also that I can reach out to him and that he will get back to me, either physically or just telepathically or whatever. I'll just sense his answer. And in the early years, when our Sangha wasn't as large, it was so wonderful to be in a circle with him of 6 people or a dozen people or something like that. And because we could communicate kind of like an equal level, like buddies, you know. But I think now with so many hundreds and thousands of students, being able to sit in his presence is almost impossible. So I feel so blessed to have had that opportunity, you know, to tease each other, to, you know, play little tricks on each other, that kind of comfort with one's teacher. Yeah. And as for new students, like I said, at Jackie's house. Were you there, Yunchuk, at Jackie's?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, where did you sit? I can't remember seeing you.
Just taking picture.
Oh, you were the, oh, okay, okay. Thank you. What I keep thinking the experience I've had being Rinpoche's student, if I can talk about it to inspire the young people to be more open to the different kinds of experience in how to share your lives and to share Buddhism in a way, you know, amongst your own family, your own community. And if you have the desire to volunteer to go overseas, you know, I mean, not only teaching English, but you can teach computers, you can teach photography to monks. There's so many things that one can do. It's not limited. You know, the Western term of the world is your oyster. You know, everything's possible. And I think that's one of the blessings that I've learned too. You know, when I think back of Anne Marie and I organizing these big events, neither one of us had done anything like that before. How do we go about it? So you learn as you do. And Doug and I certainly learned as we do when we went to teach English. You know, when we volunteered to teach English, we didn't have a clue how we were going to, you know, teach English to 60, 80 monks. But we trusted in our abilities, and we trusted in Rinpoche's love and guidance. And when we got there and saw these young boys and, you know, how lively they were and everything and how eager they were, how eager and interested they were to learn anything. When I brought my knitting, this is a small example, I brought my knitting when I went to Bartsam. And they were so interested. And I taught about 6 or 8 of them to knit. And they knitted scarves for themselves. I have pictures of them with the scarves around their neck. There was no embarrassment or anything. You know, these were males who learned how to knit. It was so fantastic. So it's that kind of joy and enthusiasm that's possible. Yeah, I'm glad I remembered that story. They were so keen to learn anything. Yeah. I guess what I have to add that is rather important to my Dharma life is how Doug, my husband, and Brian, my son, were also involved, and that really expanded and enlarged and inspired and added so much to life. And so I need to tell you a little bit about Doug. When I came back from Montreal after meeting Sogyal Rinpoche, he and then started up Rigpa Canada, and then Sogyal Rinpoche came here to speak. Doug became very interested at that time. And then when Dzongzar Khyentse Rinpoche came into our lives, Doug was really totally more involved. And then when he retired, and this would have been when he was maybe 63 or 64, the Dharma and Siddhartha's intent and the Sea to Sky Retreat Center became even larger in our everyday lives. When Amelia first had Sangha meet at her house, Doug and I and many others were part of that regular Sangha. And then when Khyentse Rinpoche started coming to Vancouver to do regular events, Doug established what we call now event guardians. And these are the fellows dressed in their ties and blue blazers, so to speak, helped keep the event going. Were the protection people, protecting Rinpoche, the green room, were responsible for driving Rinpoche anywhere to the event and back. And just made the auditorium, or where the event was happening, secure and safe. We never had any issues at all. While Anne-Marie and I carried out the event itself, it was very supportive and very healing, that we knew with the event guards and that people were secure, that there wouldn't be any hassles, and that the place was safe. And Doug also, because of his background as forester, I think I might have mentioned this earlier, was helpful in the establishing of SSRC, the lands, the trees, new buildings, etc. So with our lives involved so deeply, we continued our practice, not particularly practicing together. We went through our whole Nundro and all our prostrations and everything at home. We did that on a regular basis. And it was the fact that we shared our concerns about the Dharma, about our practice, we encouraged each other, was so wonderful for our relationship in general. We were together 40 years, and we were inspired to travel to Tibet. We had drivers drive us from, was it Beijing? Could have been from Beijing into Lhasa and all the way across to where Tibet met India. And then that Doug and I taught the monks. And we attended, I think we attended Rinpoche's teaching in Beer even, in India, when Rinpoche taught there, and also in Mexico and California teachings. So as you can gather, Dharma was the pinnacle of our 40 years together, and it was quite remarkable. And then the other person that needs to be mentioned is my son Brian, who lived with us because of his health issues. He couldn't manage on his own, and he had difficulty with the work that he was able to get. He was a great cook. So he spent many months up at SSRC as a cook there and totally enjoyed it. He also began practicing at home, attended the events, assisted Rinpoche in the green room. So our lives here at home were very practical, very basic. We all supported each other in our practice. And I remember one time when Brian was ill in the hospital, and he had many visits in the hospital because of his breathing and his asthma. When Rinpoche was here, he went in to visit Brian. Now, I can't remember whether it was early COVID or not, but there might have been one instance where Rinpoche couldn't see him because his room was considered sterilized, and I couldn't even go in to visit. But Brian was really touched that Rinpoche made that effort, and it meant a lot to him. So I hope I've given a true picture of my life in the Dharma, how it stretched over these many years, and how Doug and Brian were also involved, and what a massive benefit it was to all of us.
How many Sangha members at the time?
Well, let's see. When we started meeting at Amelia's, there was Luke, I don't know whether, probably Miletus. We met at Amelia's for several years, I think. So what I'm remembering may be the latter part of those 3 years. And Marie, of course. But Amelia's house was kind of the central, because when Rinpoche started teaching here, of course, he made students wanted tapes. They didn't have discs then. So Anne-Marie, who lived with Amelia at that time, we regularly met to duplicate tapes and send them out to people. So it was more kind of that kind of work. But it might have been Melitas, Luke for sure, Amelia and me. Maybe Micheline was here, I can't remember. Maybe Rika. Doug, of course. Brian came. Well, speaking of them, I forgot. I wanted to show these pictures.
So almost less than 10 people, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we were small.
Maybe 7, 8.
We were probably smaller, and then people became added, to our group. So our group probably started out small at Amelia's, maybe 4 or 5, and then over 2 or 3 years, people became added to that as people joined. And often they would join after a teaching event. People got interested and said, do we have a sangha that we could gather to practice on a regular basis together? And that's how we got, more people. And then Amelia sold her house, and then we rented space from another sangha. Could have been Shambhala at that time, I can't remember exactly. But it was on 33rd near Queen Elizabeth Park. And then we met there after Amelia moved out of her house. And then I can't remember where we went afterwards. I thought, since I talked so much about Doug and Brian, I thought I would show these pictures. This is Doug and me taken probably maybe the 90s.
This is you or your daughter?
That's me.
Whoa.
Don't I look the same? No, I had my hair was different then for sure. And this is Brian, my son. Yeah, I like this picture. He's smiling and happy. Yeah, but I wanted to have this on the video as well too, since they're such important members of my family. So thanks for letting me show them.
You're welcome.
But I've really appreciated this. It's been good for me,
Good for
to,
the
yeah,
other people. No.
to help me remember
Yeah.
and to bring all the little pieces together. Like remembering how the Dharma really cemented, made it strong, the relationship with Doug. And how Brian, my son, was brought in, and we were a compact family. We didn't have any disagreements, or if we didn't like something, we could talk it out without, lot of fuss and all that kind of stuff. And the fact that the Dharma helped Doug and me travel, to go to Tibet, to drive through Tibet, just with the two of us, not with a big tour group or anything. And then to go to Bhutan and meet Rinpoche's monks. I mean, that was fabulous. And to teach English there, I mean, it was the best part of our lives. And to go there 3 times and to meet Bhutanese people, I mean, it was just, just so fantastic. So the Dharma has enriched, I guess that's one word, enriched our lives, my life. So I can't say enough about it.
It's very nice. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's helped me live to be an old lady too.
Oh, please introduce yourself for 1 minute, like your age, your name.
My age? Do you want me
For
to?
all the readers.
Okay, well, my name is Irene Suyin Lee. Was born in Montreal, December 13, 1938. So I'm 86 years old. And I now live in Vancouver. I trained as a registered nurse and did some work in that area when I first moved out to Vancouver when I was married. But it was during the days when mothers never worked. They stayed home with children. The feminist movement wasn't out there anymore. So I stayed home, did some volunteer work, the crisis center, at the preschools. And then I got very antsy, was always interested in psychology and psychiatry. So I went to get my Bachelor of Arts and went with a friend who was a nurse who also tried the Dharma. We went down to University of Western Washington in Bellingham for 2 years, traveled down there twice a week, and got our bachelor. And then developed a private practice of counseling. Then I realized I needed to get more education, so went to UBC and got my master's degree in counseling psychology and continued my practice with clients. So all this background has been very helpful in entering the Dharma, studying the Dharma, getting a deeper sense of it. Not just the surface, but a real deep sense of it. And wanting to travel to learn about where the Dharma more or less started and traveled in Tibet, in India, in Bhutan. That seemed really important. It gave us a deeper sense of it, the history of it, the depth of it, the width of it, the height of it. And that helped it deepen within us.
Very good.
Maybe being a nurse and being a psychologist, if you're talking with someone, you have to answer back,
Yeah.
you know, and learning to do it in a nice way is important.
Yeah.
So I think that was good practice for me. You know, be nice to your patient, you know, don't scare them, you know, make them feel safe. You know, they may be quite ill or they may be dying. You know, how to talk to them is very important.
Yeah. So that's why you want to start the Dharma, part of the reason? Because you every day face the death and some patient?
I don't know what attracted me about Dharma. Because I think I had mentioned earlier that, you know, growing up, I went to this church and that church and everything, you know, about Christianity and somehow it didn't stick. And I guess reading Sogyal Rinpoche's book, and at the age I was at, and at the mindset that I was at, the timing was good. And it seemed to, it's made sense. I could understand it, just the surface part, not the deeper part. And I had to dig deeper. I had to learn more. And so finding a teacher that I felt, heart to heart with, and finding friends that were also searching, and then traveling too, and meeting other Buddhists. Their history was totally different. They didn't have, Western electricity and cars and everything like that. We met Tibetans who practiced Buddhism who lived in tents with their animals. And every season they moved with their animals so they could get grass. And then meeting monks, young monks. I mean, it was learning about how people in other parts of the world practice Buddhism and what it means to them. That was important for Doug and me to discover. It was probably me more than Doug. He just came along because he wanted to, and I wanted him to share the experience together. Yeah.